of anything they have to offer me, right? It's like, get over yourself, Mark. You've got to.
I believe if we could be indivisible, we would be indestructible. And
hype after this. I don't mean to ask you to put you on the spot to say, tell us what's going to happen in the future, but tell us what's going to happen in the future.
Good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Keep Leading. Keep Leading is a podcast dedicated to leadership development and insights. I'm your host, Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of executive coaching, masterful facilitation, and keynote speeches. Today I'm broadcasting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Please hit that share button so that your friends and colleagues can listen and tune in with us or catch the replay should they miss it. And if you would like to be a part of our conversation, please feel free to join us. Leave a comment. I will entertain the comments that I see. It doesn't, depending on the platform you're coming from, they don't always show up for me. But if I see it, I will definitely highlight you and your comment. Even if you don't have questions, just tell us what you think about what you're hearing. We appreciate that. And by all means, follow my guest on social media. You're going to want to know more about her and the great work that she's doing. In a world of constant change and disruption, leaders are under immense pressure to identify and adapt to new trends and address unexpected challenges. Mastering change is a leadership skill that every leader must possess, unquestionably. But the question does become, how do we do it? My guest has written a book that provides a framework for leaders looking for the answer to that question. And you'll notice it right over my shoulder. My guest today has written the Triumph Framework, 7 steps to leading organizational transformation. This is written by Talila Millman. She shares her proven framework that she has used as an executive running organizations and that she's developed through her extensive research, her interviews with other notable business leaders, and her own life. So I want to introduce you to the amazing Talila Millman. She specializes in scaling businesses and growing profits by optimizing product portfolios, refining project management and engineering operations, and driving organizational transformation. She's an executive leader with deep experience in product management and engineering at private organizations and Fortune 500 companies such as Stanley Black & Decker, Harris, and Motorola. Talila, welcome to Keep Leading Live.
Thank you, Eddie, for this wonderful introduction, and I'm so happy to be here.
I am happy to have you. So for those who have not had a chance to read about your work or follow you on social media, you are a top LinkedIn influencer, by the way, for those who don't know. Tell us what I may have missed about you and your incredible career.
I think you've done great. I think you mentioned all the highlights. What I'm doing now is I'm providing advisory services to companies of all sizes. I'm helping them grow profit and scale through defining a winning go-to-market strategy, optimization, finding efficiencies, and helping transform the organization.
Wonderful. And in addition to all of that, you've written this amazing book, the Triumph Framework. Please tell us what motivated you to write this book. Yes, we must absolutely show it.
So, to be honest, the book isn't exactly what I had in mind at first. My goal was always the same, to give back to future leaders. But the target audience shifted a bit. As a CTO, I originally wanted to help the next generation of tech leaders navigate the rough waters. But after some soul searching, I realized that my biggest struggles for my career weren't about the tech. The real challenges were all about leading big transformations, strategic shifts, digital makeovers, agile transformations, technical transformation, the whole shebang. And then it hit me that the secret sauce to my success was using these same core principles across every single one of these transformations. These principles, I call them the 7-step triumph framework, are important for any leader, no matter their areas of expertise. And after all, every leader needs to be able to handle curveballs and drive change, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And unfortunately, only 34% of the change initiatives succeed in organizations.
yes, yes, that there is a research by McKinsey that says that 30 something percent, only 30% of all organizational change succeed. And the reason is that they don't follow the Triumph framework.
Oh,
So
right.
if you think about, so to talk a little bit about the Triumph framework, I have 7 principles, and you don't have to always follow them by order. But the first and most important thing is to figure out what the problem really is. I call it that this is the T in Triumph. Think and get to the root cause. A lot of the time, people think that they don't really dig deep enough, and they try to solve problems that are not the root cause, and that makes it just like a whack-a-mole. You handle one symptoms and another symptom pops up. So the first thing, you have to figure out what's really ailing your organization. Then you have to strike alliances with the right people, recognize the stakeholders, and form alliances, because you're not the only leader in the organization. You have to work with the bigger organization. So that's the R. Then you go into TRI, ideate a plan. After ideating a plan, you go into TRIU, unwavering communication. And I call it unwavering communication because
We're having bad weather here, so I lost you there for a second. Uh, I'm back now, but I don't think my camera's back.
No, you're kind of frozen. Now that I look at you and I see that you're really frozen.
Okay.
So which letter were we stuck on?
Okay, it's back now. So I heard you start with the T. So let me just recalibrate there. My apologies to those who've tuned in. Yeah, we're having a little bad weather here, and so it looks like the power cycled on me. So you were talking about you were getting into the Triumph framework. So let's just back up a second, just isolate this for everybody. That the word Triumph in your title, which you have in orange, is literally the acronym for the framework. And you were telling me about the T. So I don't want you to have to go through everything again, but just give us a quick summary of all 7, and then we'll take 1 or 2 to dive into.
Okay, so T is think and get to the root cause. And this is the crucial initial step. If this is not accurately done, subsequent steps will fail. Mm-hmm. R is recognize stakeholders. And it's essential to identify all stakeholders, since their involvement is key to the success of building a solid plan and implementing it. I is ideate the plan. This is about creating a vision for the future and creating a path from the present to the future while not repeating the mistakes of the past, right? It's kind of tough. You, unwavering communication, and I call it unwavering communication because it needs to be constant, and you need to be able to foster motivation and collaboration and tackle any resistance. M is mobilize grassroots supports. And this involves engaging champions at every organizational level to drive the change alongside management. This approach ensures a high level of engagement and commitment from key individuals. The next thing is P, which is put the plan into action, and that's focus on execution. And H is hone your plan as you go, because no plan is perfect and adjustments are always needed.
Excellent. So triumph, think, recognize, ideate, unwavering, mobilize, plan, and hone. And of course, you break that out and you flesh that out in thorough detail in the book with a lot of examples. And by the way, your book carries some tremendous endorsements, even from other great CEOs like Aubert Joly, the former CEO of Best Buy, and other great people. So your framework is proven, it's tested, and something that other great leaders believe is something we can benefit from. So you mentioned we don't have to start in order, or we don't have to use them all. How does someone who's picking up the book know where they should start with the 7 components of this framework?
So you do have to use them all, but you don't have to do the one thing that you have to do in order is T. You have to get to the root cause. I say that fixing an organization is like diagnosing an ailing person. If you just deal with the symptoms and not with the true root cause, it's going to come back, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So you have to deal with the root cause of the problem. So that has to be the absolute first thing that you do, the T. Then
Get to the first step. Got to get to the root of the problem first for proper diagnosis before moving to the other layers. Thank you. So let's pause for a moment because we have someone who's joined us from LinkedIn, Miss Corbinice. And what she mentions is allyship is key to organizational success. Talila, can you talk about some of your stories of allyship for success? Thank you for your question, and thank you for joining us, Ms. Corbinice. Talila, please take her question.
Yes, that's a wonderful question, because that's exactly the second step. That's recognize the stakeholders and form alliances with them. So this is just a great opening. And I have a great story. I have my own stories about how to form alliances, but I want to tell a story of my mentor, and Andy Rosilowitz. He was my manager in Motorola on and off for, I would say, 8 years, and I learned a lot from him. So when I wrote this book, I went to him, right? You go to leaders that you admire, and I asked him for his stories. So he told me about the time that before coming to Motorola, he worked in he was brought in to a very big organization. And he came, the organization was hemorrhaging cash, losing customers. And he was brought in as a project manager to change the organization, but he was really low on the totem pole. His manager was like way here, and there were like 15 higher ups that he needed to convert to his ways in order to have anything happen. What he told me, so I said, Andy, how did you do it then? I knew that he did it. I knew that he was successful. I know Andy. And he said the way that he did that, he had an alliance with a very senior product person, very senior product leader. But that came with a time limit. That guy told him, I will give you a year. If you can change this organization within a year, I will support you. And he said, okay. He had no choice. We had to have this partnership. And it worked. It worked. He actually managed to show progress after a few months. And after 6 months, there was really big progress. But this product manager really made a huge difference because he was very senior and he was able to drive and to help Andy drive his initiatives.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that story. Thank you for the question and for tuning in, Miss Corbernice. We appreciate it. We also have Mr. From, who is listening to our session. He's also tuning in from LinkedIn. He says, "Well done, Talila Millman. Great info and advice."
Oh, thank you so much, Art. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, we certainly appreciate you tuning in and making your voice heard. And we encourage anyone else who's tuned in, who's listening to us from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, to make your voice heard as well. And don't forget to hit that share button so that your colleagues can be a part of this conversation as well. So, and that's a nice add-on for us to think about the allyship component, but then also the idea that something that you mentioned in your book on page 80 in chapter 5. This stands out, and this is something that it's been a part of a lot of the work that I've done. So this really resonated with me when you said that some people call this collaboration, some call it office politics, but either way, you must master the art of understanding the power of play and forming 360-degree alliances to be successful regardless of your own position in the organizational hierarchy. I had isolated that as something I wanted to talk about before Ms. Corbernice shared the importance of allyship, but I just think that those synchronize very nicely. Yes. So talk about that more if you would, please.
Yes, so I believe my approach is a lot about collaboration, because I believe that no leader is an island, and no matter how charismatic, motivational, how much people are impressed by your ideas, you'll never do it on your own. So you need to get people with you, behind you, around you, to buy into your ideas and work with you. And I talk about two types of getting people to be with you. One is alliances with your peers, getting the buy-in from your management, and the other is, I call it the mobilized grassroots support. That's getting people within the organization at all levels, influencers, I call them the transformation champions, to work with you and to champion the causes that you that you believe in and that you're trying to drive. I want to give you one example about office politics and how important it is. People think that when you're a CEO...
And as you give me that example, I just want to share that Mr. Combs has joined us. He says it helps to find common ground with the people around you, and in conjunction with what you're saying there, he was supportive of that.
Yes, Scott, this is exactly true. You need to find the common ground, and you don't have to agree on every single thing, but you need to have the same goal and the same general idea of where you want the organization to go. And I want to share one thing. People think that CEOs are omnipotent. They can do everything in their organization, but that's actually not true. And one of the stories that I tell in the book is...
Are you sure that every CEO understands that?
Well, they should.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
So one of the stories that I share in the book is the story of Blockbusters, because everybody thinks that this is a story of the company that didn't understand the technology and got left behind. But yes, what happened was that the CEO, and I don't remember his name right now, but the CEO, they brought the CEO right before the whole thing collapsed. They brought the CEO. He was there for 5 years. He was actually doing well. And the stock price began to rise. People started... using Blockbusters more. But then there was an activist investor, Carl Icahn, that got a place on the board, and he did not agree with the CEO, and the CEO was not able to get him to agree with him. So it ended up with a big blow up. The CEO left. And then a year after he left, Carl Icahn, and a short time after he left the company, I think a year or two, the company went bankrupt. And Carl Icahn actually went on to the media, and he said that what that CEO brought to the table, the initiative that he wanted to do, One of the big initiatives, he didn't want to charge people for late fees. And Carl Icahn and other on the boards really objected to it. So he said, if we were to listen to this CEO, I believe Blockbuster, he said, I made a mistake. If we were to listen to that CEO, I think Blockbuster would still be and would flourish. But that was too late. That's why I'm saying even CEOs need to get support.
Indeed, they do. Now, Mr. Art Fromm is ask a different question for us. If you have not done so already, can you speak to whether using the Triumph framework is strictly a step-by-step process or iterative? So that's where we started, but it's good to go ahead and revisit that, if you would, please.
So I think you have the 7 steps that you need to do. You have to follow every one of them. But at the end of the day, this is a very iterative approach. That's why we have the H, hone your plan as you go, because no plan, there is a famous saying, no plan survives the reality of the battlefield. You come up with a plan and then you run into problems in real time. And you need to have the flexibility to change your plan and iterate and iterate. One of the stories that I bring in the book is a story of where I was trying to get to change the strategic direction of a company that was very legacy. And I wanted to find new products and new markets. My first attempt was technological innovation that didn't get us any new customers, and any new market was a complete failure. Then we had a second attempt that got us 25% revenue increase, but with the same market and the same customers. And only the third attempt actually got us to new markets, new customers, new products. And this is what the company actually is doing now. So you have to hone your plan as you go. You have to iterate and iterate.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Art Fromm, for asking that again, because I had a little bit of a challenge there, so it might have gotten distorted. So it's definitely good for us to isolate that and make it clear. Beautiful. I appreciate that. Well, now, when it comes to organizational change, one of the biggest challenges facing leaders who are leading organizational change today is the powerful 2 letters, AI. What role does your framework play in helping leaders when it comes to AI?
Gen AI is one of the bigger disruptives of our time, and companies need to really focus on it because it has the potential to disrupt everything that they're doing. And the Triumph framework is a great tool to use, because what you really need to do with, when you think about AI, there are 3 things that any leader needs to do. The first thing is come up with a strategy. The second thing is to get everybody trained on an AI. And then the third thing is change management, because you need, whatever the strategy is, you need to implement it in the organization. And that's where Triumph comes to play. It helps you through the T, think and get to the root cause. It helps you with the strategy, and the training and the change management are actually part of the framework. So if you follow the framework, everything will fall into place.
That's the beauty about frameworks, right? And so when it's a well-constructed framework, if you stick to it, everything will fall into place, as you say. Excellent. What is the most important message you want those who've listened to us to take away from our conversation today?
We live in time of change, and in a time of change, every leader must be a change leader. So in the time of change, every leader needs Triumph.
In the time of change, every leader needs Triumph. And when you say needs Triumph, you mean the 7 letters acronym. Excellent. As leaders, I'm big on quotes, and I always ask, what is a quote that you use to help you keep leading?
There are many quotes, but the one that really sticks with me is, leaders are not born, they are made. And the reason I think this is such an important quote is that many times people feel that they cannot do that. They're not charismatic enough. They're not extroverted enough. They don't know how to public speak. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. And my point is, if you really have something that you're passionate about and you want to take the leadership, go ahead and do that, because actually everything that a leader needs to do to lead, they can learn, they can develop the skills in themselves. And actually, one of my chapters, I go over the things that are needed for leadership, and I explain how to develop and how to at least kickstart your learning and development.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that quote. And it looks like we've got one more question that's come in that we'll sneak in here. Ms. Corbenice again, thank you. Talila, how do you address the issue of upskilling in Gen AI for the CEOs? Admittedly, most CEOs are not Gen AI experts, nor are they meant to be. Without the CEO sponsorship and championship, no transformation can be successful.
Pei-Ling, you're absolutely right. You do need to get the sponsorship and the championship of the CEO. And part of what I explain is how you go about getting support, getting people aligned around the idea. Allyship is a great way to do that. Transformation champions is a great way to do that. The more support you will get to your ideas across the board, the more you will be able to drive the idea forward. I would say that in terms of upskilling, I don't think that CEO needs to be expert in Gen AI. CEOs, by definition, are there to lead the organization and to rely on the actual experts within the organization to show the way.
Absolutely.
So they need the general understanding, but they rely on the staff to get them the important information, to point out what needs to be done, to point out the market trends, to point out how you can improve the operation or what new strategy or go to market and so forth. So it's up to us, up to all of us, to bring the message to the CEO and convince them.
Beautiful. Thank you for your answer. And Pei-Ling, thank you for your question. We appreciate that, Ms. Corbenice. So, Pei-Ling, Scott, Art, thank you for being not only a part of our session today by listening and tuning in, but by asking your questions, which certainly make for a more lively discussion. We appreciate that, both Talila and myself. Well, tell us, where can people learn more about you and your great work? I've had your website scrolling, but tell us anything else you want us to know about where they can find out more about you and your services.
www.talilamillman.com. That's the best place.
Excellent. All right. Well, everyone, again, as I said, please be sure to follow Talila Millman. She's a LinkedIn influencer. So follow her, connect with her, and get your copy of this book that I've got on my on my credenza here, okay? It was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being a guest on Keep Leading.
Thank you so much, Eddie. It was such a pleasure, and thank you for everybody that tuned in.
And that concludes this episode, everyone. Thank you for listening. Again, I'm Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator, reminding you that leadership is not about our title or our position. Leadership is action. Leadership is an activity. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment that we put on or take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all that we do. So whatever you're doing, always keep leading.